Hello everyone and welcome to Wise Exotics. I'm your host Trevor and today we'll be doing a discussion video about variegation within Nepenthes. Now, variegation can occur within other tropical plants and other plant types, so keep that in mind. That being said, I'm mainly making this video as a reference so misinformation isn't spread and it helps those who need it or find it interesting. And I've had a few questions about it. So, here's a video on it. That being said, there are typically 4 types. There is technically a 5th type, but the 5th type is in or reference to a couple of the other types. So we'll make that a kind of generalized version. So there are the current 4 types that you will want to keep in mind: viral, mutation, stress, and chimerism. Now the 5th type has to relate to cell damage. This is usually done via chemicals or radiation, and it's more likely to kill your plant than to actually make this occur, so please keep that in mind. Now, for the viral trait, there is a specific type of virus that's usually the cause. This virus is referred to as the marble virus. When the virus infects a targeted plant, it will create pseudo variegation by depleting the pigmentation of various plant cells as the plant grows, develops, or matures. However, if you just simply treat the plant with antiviral or let the plant, fight it off, it will eventually go away. So that's one type. I've seen this be a common reference to try to scam people, so not always the case with Nepenthes. The marble virus is not very common in a lot of occurrences. It doesn't usually affect Nepenthes. And B, if it affects one, it's going to affect all of them within a lot or in a good area because it's a virus. As a plant breathes or is touching other plants, there is a chance of infection or it's spreading. If you have plants from seed developing variegation, it's typically not from the marble virus. Those are mutations. Now, typically, as per number 2, mutation is the most and or major cause of variegation. Now, a lot of people reference variegation as a white striation or patterning occurring within a darker leaf or green leaf, as that can be said. That is the most typical form. That is not the only type. There are variegations that are yellow, purple, green, pink, light yellow, light green, to white. It's a variance. You can actually have various forms of variegation within one plant specimen. So you can have a plant that's green, have a white variegation with a striation of, say, yellow or red. There is also other uncommon colors such as pink, and the purples and the yellows, but they do occur. They're very well common in philodendrons of that nature, so you can actually go look those up if you're curious. That being said, typically these are caused by a mutation brought about by genetics, which is randomly occurrence within a lot. For Nepenthes, it's usually referred to as a 1 in a million chance to get a variegated Nepenthes. But there are other factors that can make this more prevalent or more easier to reoccur due to various reasons, and I'll get into those later. The second type is the most typical, but it can also fade or go away due to different conditions and or lighting, because typically variegation is a unhealthy tissue. And it's not to say that the plant isn't healthy with variegation, it's just it's not as absorbent or what the plant needs, because typically plants reflect green light. As you can see here, the plant is visible to us as green because it is reflecting green photons from the leaf. So it's every other color but green. Now, as you can see, plants are semi-translucent. That means they are semi-permeable to green photons, meaning not all green photons are bounced back. So they do actually, in fact, need some to grow and develop healthily. So a lot of people who are doing the red and blue lights remove the green photon and waveforms out, tend to not have as good as results. That's why everybody's slowly going back to the full spectrum, because per research that was found, green spectrum is required for certain plant growth to develop healthily. Now, the white pigmentation is not to say it is unhealthy, but it does not reflect or use the same spectrums as the green typical pigmentation. However, I've seen some white pigmentation explode under various other conditions of light spectrums that don't typically affect the green. One such case was a partially variegated philodendron a friend has, and all of a sudden it was getting these looked like white fireworks on the leaf, and they were in fact variegation. And he cut the cell, he thought it was virus, he checked it, he trimmed it, everything, didn't affect it. It turned out there was a small bit of the light coming from their seedling dome that was nearby that was just hitting the plant at just the right way to cause this reaction. It was just enough to make the white cells grow and develop rapidly. It's very pretty, actually. Um, Typically, this is an occurrence of just those white cells getting enough nutrition and or a spectrum to grow fast or faster than the healthy pigmentation. That being said, we'll go into the stress. Now, stress can be good or bad stress. So there's the bad stress, which is your plant was on importation, and the plant's been in darkness, it's starved of light. The green cells with the green pigmentation do not develop as fast, and the white cells then become prevalent and or start to grow at about the same rate. So that's when you'll start to see variegation or partial variegations occur in certain species or specimens. Now, is that to say that this is a fake and does that mean it's variegated? Yes, it is a variegated plant. However, the variegation might not stick. It might be on and off. It might be triggered by stress and stick around for a bit or permanently. It does occur. However, it might eventually fade. So as the plant gets healthier and stronger, those white or lighter cells are pushed back, which causes them to fade or not be visible. So this is a trick or method that can technically show that you have a variegated plant, or that that plant at least has variegated genetics that you can use to, say, try to breed for a more specified lot. So say breeding variegated to variegated does not always occur to produce all variegated results, and that's because genetics are a fun little crisscross puzzle of randomness and or statistics. Within that, you increase your chances. However, it's not a guarantee you will get one. There's a reason it's called the 1 in a million chance, or the unicorn of the seed lot. Tabby? The final one, which is chimerism, that is one you will probably more likely find within Nepenthes. You might be wondering why. Chimerism results from two species interbreeding and crossing. The resultant offspring can have pigmentation or cell types of both parents present within their genetics that argue or fight about their coloration. As an example, one such plant that's kind of been up for question for a while was Ampullaria black miracle. It was also called Hucarena black miracle. It's also been called plenty of other names, but basically the coin term is black miracle. That is because the pigmentation, which is actually a red, originates from the pitcher and spreads up the leaf tip. Now, a perfect example of this is one of its offspring that I have right here. So as you can see, the pitcher node tip is this kind of reddish brown, and it goes up the leaf and spreads. This is the same pattern as Black Miracle. I actually had one when it was younger. It did not survive with me. I've actually not been able to keep it pure amp, weirdly enough. Usually the easiest. Now, Black Miracle typically starts red. Then from the pitcher node, it develops and darkens as it matures to almost a black coloration. The location where that was found was a Taiwanese nursery that was breeding Hucarena and Ampullaria and or Viking / globosa, whatever you want to call it. Variants of Mirabilis around, and there are a lot of different hybrids and crosses that were resultant. Black Miracle is thought to possibly be just a really high-end back cross that occurred. It has all the traits of Amp, but it contains some of the pigmentation cells of its Viking origin, which is very prevalent and can be compared to, again, to one of its offspring. This is one that I call Cherry Bomb. It's the sibling to the one I showed earlier. As this plant has matured, when I originally got it, it was green. As you can see, the pitcher leaves all start white and come down, then they turn red, and the pigmentation flows and spreads out. There is still prevalence of green pigmentation even under the leaf. You can see it's a form of speckling. It's just how it occurs. Now, white variegation does occur in Nepenthes, as I've said. I have a few within my collection. I have 2 Gracilis white, and this specimen here actually has one that's partial variegated, but it's slowly fading. That was probably because it had rapid growth, and that's the explanation for why that is. Now, can chimerism always produce it? No, but it has been noticed if you would like to have a variegated Nepenthes within your collection just to enjoy or look at it or research. Typically, crossings of Viking x Black Miracle, or plants that have Viking on one side and then Black Mirror on the other, can and are more likely to produce this red variegation or speckling. It's a trait that seems to be passed down, and it seems dominant, so it seems to be a form of chimerism. Typically, pigmentation that's a lighter or different color that would alter the way the plant's UV or spectrums emit toward bugs is seen to not be good, so they are typically thought of as a bad gene and or usually are recessive. So if this is a dominant gene that's occurring, it's more likely that it's a chimera coloration that these two are producing rather than a straight variegation, same as the white type or the darker striation one on my Clipiata. Now, I actually have seen another one like my Clipiata, which was really impressive. As it matured, it keeps darkening. So that's kind of neat. I also seen a white variegated Clipiata, a white variegated Raja, all of which are impressive. Recently, a gentleman actually had a white variegated Veitchii with stripes. Really, really interesting. If you're curious, there is a forums called Variegated Nepenthes on Facebook where people post and share those, so feel free to check them out. And that should wrap up. I would caution you to try any form of experiments with radiation and or chemicals or viruses to affect your plants. Nepenthes are pretty durable, but they are also pretty sensitive. Again, you're more likely to injure your plant than actually cause variegation to occur. It's a lot safer just to try to breed for it. That being said, everybody's doing well. Trevor out.